self-proclaimed saviors. Planned cataclysm has stricken this plutocratic governmental system, and this extortion shell game has left the common people with two options. Under shell number 1, governmental control. This consists of collapsing the current system, using propaganda to disseminate skepticism, mass layoffs, food rationing, martial law, shelter in place, and monetary ruin. And under shell number 2, wait for it, it's the exact same, governmental control. Now in my analysis, I will expound each point, collapsing the current political government system. As I have warned, this plutocracy was established for the upper echelon, and we the common people were designed to be the chattel. And this system was meant to evolve into a communistic system after depleting the middle class common people's possessions. But with the rise of nationalism in one's cells and nation, this system was thrust into turmoil, thus halting its systematic evolution. This planned destruction was coordinated and activated by the plutocrats around the world, thus proved by the information that was withheld by the WHO, China, Big Pharma, and select American politicians in order to strike fear into common people. Ephesians 5:13, but when anything of dark is exposed by the light, it becomes visible. Using propaganda to disseminate skepticism. This is the utmost powerful apparatus of the plutocrats. They can make the COVID-19 virus to seem dire in order to shut down the country and the economy to cause a collapse, to ensure that these plutocrats and their associates and lobbyists receive the bulk of the emergency stimulus money. The plutocrats have even given the authority to the Federal Reserve to stimulate these enormous banks with the common people's money when they deem necessary. And this COVID-19 crisis was enough to get these banks $550 billion. As for the common people, we got our one-time chattel payment of $1,200 up to $3,400. Quote, the art of propaganda consists precisely in being able to awaken the imagination of the public through an appeal to their feelings and finding the appropriate psychological form that will arrest the attention and appeal to the hearts of the national masses. End quote. Adolf Hitler. Mass layoffs. This is the direct result in disseminating fear through propaganda, advising everyone to social distance or self-quarantine to stop the spread. This propagandized advice has collapsed the economy and caused mass layoffs unlike nothing ever seen before, thus causing the need for several massive stimulus bills, which will only accelerate the collapse. Food rationing. This is an ongoing occurrence in this created COVID-19 crisis. Common people are only allowed to get so much chicken, hamburger, toilet paper, etc. This is the result of the panic and the fear that has been disseminated from the plutocrats, propagandists, the media, causing panic purchases among the common people. And with the grocery shortages, local, state, and federal governments exploited the situation, imposing rationing rules upon the common people. As Mao Zedong says, quote, when there is not enough to eat, people starve to death. It is better to let half of the people die so that the other half can eat their fill. End quote. Martial law, shelter in place. These plutocrats are using this crisis to enforce a shelter-in-place order in the disguise of protecting the common people. The plutocrats are relying on their propaganda arm, the media, to facilitate panic and distrust. Noam Chomsky says, quote, any dictator would admire the uniformity and obedience of the U.S. media. End quote. Besides the shelter-in-place order, these plutocrats caused even more distrust amongst common people towards their fellow commoners by initiating social distancing, in the ruse you might transmit or contract the deadly virus, thus killing or being killed by each other's neglect. This form of martial law in some places is being enforced by your phone's GPS tracking app to ensure that us common people are not out amongst the plutocrats. These plutocrats are even producing erroneous statistics that environment is cleansing itself absent the common people's everyday presence out driving on the roads, flying on planes, riding boats, etc. Through the help of their propagandists, the media, and the expert doctors and medical bureaucrats reinforcing this crisis, the shelter-in-place order will continue. H.L. Mencken says, quote, the whole aim of practical politics is to keep the populace alarmed, and hence clamorous to be led to safety, by an endless series of hobgoblins, most of them imaginary, end quote. Monetary ruin. The Plutocrats are not wasting any time to take control of the common people and to transform this country into their communist utopia. From the issuing of curfews, closing beaches, orders to wear masks, to giving out stimulus money as long as you stay home and obey. Rahm Emanuel says, quote, "Never let a good crisis go to waste," end quote. The temptation of receiving this stimulus money has self-willingly made the common people dependent upon the government. The deception of this lure was under the guise it would give the common people relief on paying their bills. In reality, it has unwittingly caused monetary destruction. James Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, says, quote, "Whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce," end quote. These masters of illusion have found out that they can snare all of us common people in their magician's trap with just a minimum amount of stimulus money as the enticement, therefore securing us common people as the chattel and at long last destroying this fiat money. As Voltaire says, quote, "At the end, fiat money returns to its inner value, zero," end quote. Now is the time for common people to reclaim their sovereignty and dismiss these plutocratic tyrants' ploy to unconditionally enslave us. James Madison warned us of this scenario when he said, quote, "The means of defense against foreign danger historically have become the instruments of tyranny at home," end quote. Common people, do not be distressed, but overcome your fears and exterminate these plutocratic roaches. As Colonel Kurtz from the movie Apocalypse Now so poetically recites, quote, "Horror. Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and mortal terror are your friends. If they are not, they are enemies to be feared," end quote. Once as common people have made friends with horror and mortal terror, this plutocratic system and its controllers will be vanquished. Do not suppose that I, Yeshua, have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. Matthew 10:34.